Hi, everyone, and welcome to an interview with Dr. Anah, where we amplify the voices of Black women PhDs. And I am your host, Dr. Anah, and today we have the lovely guest, Dr. Latasha Hicks-Becton. Hi, Dr. Hicks-Becton, how are you?
Hey, I'm well, super excited.
Good. It's lovely to see you. I've never met you before, but we are friends on virtual media. So it's really nice to talk to you and put a voice to the face and your social media profile. So thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm privileged and honored to be a part of it.
Thank you. Okay, so today I want to get started with what your PhD journey has been. So, so share with us a little bit about your experiences, how you decided to get your PhD, and also what made you remain in your PhD program in order to finish the program.
Yeah, sure.
Lot,
so
right?
Yeah, sure. So those are all really big questions. I was thinking about this just generally, like what it means. I am a person who is kind of like committed to winning, whatever that means, and I just refuse to fail. I will not lose. I'm very competitive with myself, not necessarily competitive with others, but very much so with myself. And one of the things I thought about, so when you asked me to do this, and I had this conversation with my kid, so I have an 8-year-old, he's as sweet as he can be, as sweet as pie, every moment of every day. I'm just kidding. But when I was in my doctoral program, actually I started the doctoral program and he was not quite 3. So I would have started in August and he turned 3 in October. So he's been with me like through this whole journey. Wow. And when I think about him, like I dedicated my dissertation to him, and I just think about him and him being with me through that whole process. And this kid knows way more about like all of this stuff than I did at that age. So just for context, we'll go back to like my birth and like my life experience and getting to here. So I very much identify as like a first generation college student, like first generation master's, and I got a whole PhD, y'all. Like I was in my mother's uterus when she walked across the stage and got her high school diploma.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. Oh my goodness.
It is. Yeah. And so, like when I think about that, and, I like learned to read really young, and they would say, Tasha, read the newspaper. And so I'd read the newspaper, and I was always really embarrassed. And they just thought I was so smart. And, when I was in middle school and high school, it was always talked about that I was going to go to college. I think my family wanted me to go to a certain school that's a little bit northeast of here.
Yeah.
Southwest, northeast of here. And then, or maybe a certain school that was in the town that I grew up in, and I chose to go somewhere else, and that's fine. But I was clear that I was going to go to college, and no one else in my family had done that. Like that was a clear expectation for me, but it wasn't for some of my cousins that are in like my same generation or age, which I think is really interesting. And I went to college, like moved away from my family, just a county over. And, I did that. But as a kid, I had no concept of what a PhD was, what graduate school was, any of those things. So I went to undergrad and I studied psychology, and it was fun and exciting. And I had some ideas about what I was going to do with my life and how things were going to go. And that's not how they went. So then I went and worked in industry for a little while. Then I went back to grad school and I got my master's degree, which was also unheard of for, anyone in my family. And then I went out and practiced for a while. Then I got married, I had a kid and stayed at home with him, went back to practice, and then said, hey, it's finally time for me to get this PhD. Like I had thought about it before. In fact, my family thought I was going to be a medical doctor. It didn't turn out that way, but who knows? There's still time. And I went through this PhD program, and at some point I took my kid to a hooding ceremony, and he said, mommy, like, what does it mean, like, when they're calling out people's names and saying Doctor of Philosophy? And I told him what that meant. And he's like, well, I want to be a Doctor of Philosophy when I grow up.
Oh.
And, you know, here I am with my 5-year-old at the time, I think, and I'm like, this kid is talking about he wants to like get a doctor of philosophy degree. He wants to be a doctor of philosophy when he grows up. And at his age, when I was that age, like I had no concept of what that even was. So like when I think about perseverance, and, you know, there were lots of obstacles during my PhD program. We're probably going to get to those, but yes. I was very committed, I think, to doing it. And that even if I had decided I didn't want to do it for myself anymore, I felt responsible for doing it for my kid, because that just wasn't the experience that I had. You know, like I said, I was in my mother's uterus when she got her high school diploma. I went to live with my grandparents when I was like 5 or 6 years old. My grandmother had a 6th grade education, and my grandfather was a blue collar worker. He worked for a pretty large company here where we live. So, yeah. I mean, that was kind of the life that I lived. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such an amazing, like, first step, right?
Yeah.
And so what were some of the obstacles that you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I started in my doctoral program, and one of the things that was true, and actually I kind of expected this. I had grown to become accustomed to being, you know, either the one Black woman or one of a very small few in the circles that I ran in, I guess is what I should say. And at the time I started my doctoral program, there were no faculty of color in the program. And my cohort, yeah, right. Yeah. You know, in my cohort, there were 7 of us, all women identified people, and I was the only person of color. So that was a challenge, I think, for a lot of reasons. And, you know, I was, you know, married and parenting. I had a toddler, which wasn't true for the other women in my cohort. One of my peers actually had an adult child. So she was, you know, kind of non-traditional. And I was probably in the middle of the age range. So we had people that had come straight through from, you know, high school, college, master's, PhD. And then we had people that were midlife career changers or who had taken some time off. So I felt isolated in a lot of ways. I had 2 miscarriages back to back. My second year of the doctoral program, that was rough, I think, is the word that I'll use to describe it. I mean, there were just like other things happening in my life that made it really challenging. So the perseverance, I think, was key. And my intent or my approach was just to keep showing up, like whatever that meant.
Yeah. And I imagine that you had a really good support system around you as well.
Yes.
In terms of sort of family wise, was that true?
Yes. And really my chosen family, I would say, because my biological family didn't really understand this whole doctoral process. Like it just isn't a part of their concept. They still don't get it. Some of them still think I'm a psychologist. I'm like, no, I'm a counselor. My professional identity is as a counselor.
Yes.
I'm a counselor educator. I'm not a psychologist. They're different. Yes. Though we have some of the same goals and intentions for our work, by professional identity, we're very different. They also are like, so you're going to make a lot of money now? And I'm like, y'all don't know what professors do. In fact, I do. That is not what is happening.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's happening over there with y'all, but that's not how
not here.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite comical. Yeah. But I, over several years, you know, through my like involvement in professional organizations and like, you know, kind of counseling leadership, had developed relationships with a lot of people who could be specifically supportive of me and for me during that. And then of course, like I had my other friends and my family was supportive as well, but they were able to offer like support for me in different ways and then for different parts of the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really good. So if you met someone who was thinking about going through this process,
don't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Really, like I mean, what would you say in terms of like how they would deal with obstacles, what they should look out for,
Sure.
who they should seek in that
Mm-hmm.
journey. What sort of advice would you give them, knowing what you went through with your process?
That's fair. I think the biggest thing is know your bottom line. And really also do what you can stand. So in knowing your bottom line, like, you know what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate, what you're going to let be okay and what you're not going to let be okay. If you need to challenge something, then challenge it, because there are going to be times where things are going to happen that you don't expect, or that are even like unfair or unreasonable, and you get to decide what your bottom line is. Are you going to let that be okay, or are you going to do something about it? So I would say that know your people. Not everyone is your person. Some people will seem like they're your person, but they're not really. So keep your discerning ears and eyes and senses open. Find something to do with yourself. One of the things that I did was I registered for a long race, a 10 miler, and then for a half marathon. So I trained for them, and and I had never done anything like that before. Like, I had done like 5Ks in the neighborhood, or like went on this like walk for like the women's only 5K, or, prop run or something like that. But I registered for this race.
5K is a lot. 5K is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but I mean, I feel like that's what people do for exercise. But I, did the Tar Heel 10 miler. So I'm in North Carolina, I guess. I'm like telling on myself, but that race is that route is very hilly. And, I trained for it, and there were so many times that I wanted to give up, but I didn't. I just kept training. I ran in the rain. I ran in the cold. I would come home and my spouse would say, "Oh, it's raining out there." And I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, I need some windshield wipers for my eyes or something. And I did that race and I finished it, and that was the goal. And then my friend had run with me, and she, there's a place in the course where if you haven't gotten there by a certain time, they'll remove you from the course and then put you to a drop-off point. And that's what happened with her. And she's like, "Well, I'm committed to getting 10 miles. So she walked after the finish line. She kept going on and on and on until her, pedometer, her watch or whatever told her that she was at 10 miles. And so it was nice for me to be there to support her in that. So two things are happening there. One, there's a metaphor, that this effort at perseverance, physically, mirrors this effort that I needed to make in the doctoral program to stay engaged, to stay involved with it, to really stay connected to my process. Because when you're running, you cannot be not connected to your body.
Exactly.
It's not even possible. And I think that was one of the things for me too, because I like to try to disconnect or detach. It's one of the things that I've learned to do to cope. And it doesn't always serve me well. So running really helped me stay in touch with myself in a way, because there are times in the doctoral program where I really felt like I was going to lose myself. And I mean, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly what you're talking about.
And have, worked with people on their dissertations or something like that. And, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the performance or the identity or the expectations. And it's really, really important that we take good care of ourselves. And so, and also, the part about waiting for my friend, the same thing. So there may be people that start with you in your doctoral journey that maybe take a little bit longer, or it may be that you are the person that took longer. And it's really important for us to continue to support each other, even if we're not finishing at the same time. So I think those are, part of the metaphors, I guess, of that I would like to share. There might have been another question embedded in what you asked that I forgot.
No, just, I mean, what advice would you give them in terms of, if a woman comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this PhD program," what would you say to her? Would you say, don't do it? Or would you say, don't do it? But from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like you would say, "Hey, people have different paths in their PhD journey."
Absolutely.
That even if you start with someone, they may finish earlier, or you might finish earlier. So that's the metaphor, that everybody has their own journey.
Yes, there are many pathways to the PhD. And, I think I'll add that I remember being in this interview process for like the next cohort. And there was a woman in the interview who said, what do y'all think about this? I'm thinking about starting a family. Do you think I should wait, or do you think I should just go for it? And I think for me, having had the experience that I had with the unsuccessful pregnancies, it was rough. It was bad. I don't even know what other.
I'm so sorry.
I have some words to describe it that are probably improper for this interview.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. But having had that experience, I remember thinking about like all of the times in my life where I said, oh, well, now's a good time. Well, no, I should wait because this thing needs to happen or that thing needs to happen. Having had this experience now, I'm like, whatever, like do what you want to do. Like, and again, like do what you can stand. So if waiting for it is worth it for you, then wait. And if you don't want to wait, don't. Like, you don't need to put your life on hold or stop doing what you're doing for this program. There are people that will tell you that is necessary. There are people that will tell you that that's what you should do, or that you're not going to be respected if you're like caring for an infant, or people aren't going to cut you any slack. Well, you know what? If people aren't going to show me grace, those aren't my people.
Exactly.
So that's where I stand with that. Yeah.
Amen to that. Amen. Yeah. Thank you so much. So the last question I like to wrap up with is, what is your favorite quote? And why is it your favorite quote, and how has it carried you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I think I want to say. Well, you might have heard me say, do what you can stand a few times.
Yes.
And so I had a supervisor in my like former life's work who said that to me. And really, I read that to mean be willing to accept the consequences of your decisions, like whatever that means. If they're positive consequences or negative consequences, do what you can stand. So if you want to make a decision to advocate for yourself, then know that that comes with consequences. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't, and that's okay. Be willing to accept that. If you decide that you want to wait to pursue building your family, know that that might work out for you and that might not. Be willing to accept that. So that's kind of part of it. And then the other thing is this idea that if you take care of the small things, the big things will take care of themselves. So there are a couple of versions of that. One of them comes from Emily Dickinson, like girl power for sure. And one of them comes from Dale Carnegie, thinking about leadership. And really, it probably goes with this idea of doing what you can stand, but really taking care of like the tiny things are sometimes really the big things. It might be, the 10 minutes that I would spend with my kid in the morning before I left the house, like taking care of that small thing, which was really big for me. Like, let it be okay that I was doing these other things. Maybe even things like, making sure you get enough water. Like, it might seem small. And I remember actually at some point in the doctoral program, I was having a lot of migraines, and I was like, okay, so I need to like exercise, drink enough water, like stay hydrated, stay fed. So I like asked my peers, I was like, when you see me, will you ask me if I'm drinking water? So I asked for help with that, and it helped. Like, I had less migraines. And because I had less migraines, I was able to focus better, and I was able to like work more efficiently. So that, like, taking care of the hydration, that was a small thing relatively. Let it be true that I could take care of big things, like cognitive complexity and synthesizing literature and things like
that. Oh no, you just took me back.
Right? Like kind of traumatic.
I was like, a trauma. Like,
it's so funny that you said that. I don't remember. There was something on social media. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, like next time I get a PhD, like help me not do this. And someone commented and said something like, if you see that I'm like gonna try to get another PhD, please stop. Because it's a really rough thing. I kind of joke about being through these challenging experiences many times in my life. Dare I call it hazing, but I like,
Ooh.
you know, it was an experience, I think, is what I need to say.
It really, and it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, you know, and it's grueling. It takes a lot out of you and a lot out of the people around you.
Yes.
And it seems almost sort of, it's a personal thing, but when you get it, you get it.
You do. And you know, like,
yeah.
So I was just thinking about my grandmother. She actually passed this year, which was very sad, but I'm so glad that she was able to like be there and see me, you know, to like be there. Like she saw me get hooded by my like marvelous advisor. And, you know, my mom was there and she had my whole face on her shirt, like, you know, like neighborhood style.
Wow.
So that was, you know, that was it. And I, sorry, my kid just walked in and you saw me. I was asking him to like stay there at the door. But, you know, it's like super sweet to like be able to see people get really excited about that and celebrate with me. And, you know, I know like during the whole process, it was, well, you don't call me as much as I think you should. And I'm like, look, I want to talk to you. I want to
I just can't.
But I just can't, you know, when I can, I will. And that, you know, that was kind of it. So I'm really privileged and grateful that like after, you know, that particular journey was over for me, that the, you know, well, I don't know if that journey is really ever over.
I was going to say, we're still going to.
But I'm like, but that, you know, like post-graduation, I was able to be really intentional about spending more time and like, you know, kind of making up for some of the time that I felt like was lost, so to speak. Though I did probably try like every 2 weeks or so to schedule time in to spend time with different parts of my family, my mother or my grandmother, for example. So
yeah. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Hicks-Becton. You have been so wise and sharing your wisdom and your truth and your experiences. I think you've helped a bunch of people today. Just kind of, just sort of listening to your journey. From a personal note, it's wonderful to meet you. I've always wanted to meet you. So thank you so much for doing this. I know that you are a very busy woman, and I really do appreciate any time that you have to sit down and talk about this journey with me. So thank you so much. And I wish you all the best in the world, all the success, all the blessings, everything, so that you can continue this journey that you have. And I'll see you on social media.
I'll see you on social media. I'm super privileged to be here and like share with you today. So like I hope that you get to enjoy the rest of it. And I'll see you online.
Thank you so much. Take care of yourself and that little boy.
Yes, I will.
Take care.
Later.
Bye-bye.